Hello everybody, welcome back to the Collector's Vault. My name's Mike. Today we're going to be talking about another Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype that it's the first time we talked about it on this channel. It's actually a big time favorite of mine. It was the deck that really got me back into the game. This is going back like maybe 9 years ago, maybe even more. And this deck is the Karakuri deck. It's definitely a deck I've tinkered with over the years, but definitely ever since Master Rule 4 was implemented, the deck really suffered for obvious reasons. I mean, for those of you who don't know, it revolves around you summoning your synchro monsters and just spamming the board with other monsters to keep synchro summoning. And it just basically was really hindered by Master Rule 4 because you were really reliant on link monsters, which they're, good machine link monsters, which is kind of what these guys could probably abuse, where they were a little few and far between. And then obviously we got the announcement of new support in Ignition Assault, which was great, and the support actually was really good. And I was waiting for them to announce a link monster. But sure enough, when the whole set was revealed, there's no Karakuri link monster, and I couldn't believe it. But regardless of that, there are link monsters that we can use, and now that we know that Master Rule 5 or Master Rule 4 revision April 2020, whatever it's called, it's coming out, and that's going to unhinder the Karakuri deck, and they can basically do exactly what it wanted to do, back before Master Rule 4, and I'm really excited about that. So I wanted to kind of talk today about just some of the combos you can do with the deck. It can still do things going first, but I think it'll be a lot better when Master Rule 5 is coming out. So that way you can actually make really good turn 1 boards and really abuse cards like the Nachurias, like the Nachuria Beast, which is one of my favorite cards I ever summoned with Karakuris, because the deck could do it so well. And I do also want to go over how right now I think the deck is better for as a going second deck for OTKing, because the deck can still OTK very well. And so, with all that said, let's go to the table. Alright guys, we're back. So, let's talk about Karakuris. For those of you who don't know, it's a very fast deck that is good at synchro summoning and spamming the board with a bunch of earth machines. And one of the problems with the deck right now is the fact that it is completely hindered by Master Rule 4. You have to, in order to summon multiple synchro monsters, you do require a link, which is pretty obvious. Now the deck is very good with the new support of summoning their synchro monsters, just by using the previous level. For example, this is level 7, level 8, and level 9. Beret, Beredo, and Berebu, the new one. Technically, now with the release of the new level 1 tuner, the Toad, Gamma, you can actually use a Karakuri monster to summon him and then just keep synchro summoning into the next level. And as cool as that is, you don't just want to summon out Berebu as good as he is. You basically want to be able to summon as many monsters as possible, maybe summon as many Beredus as possible, so that way you can draw 3 cards. Technically, you could probably summon a bunch of these and then batch a bunch of cards. So right now the deck's kind of hindered. However, that does not mean I think it's a bad deck. I just think it's just not its time to shine. And I think if Master Rule 5 comes out in April, this is going to be a much different story, because then you can do what the deck was designed to do, which is summon a bunch of synchro monsters and either make an amazing turn 1 board, and then, or more accurately, just be able to kill the opponent pretty easily. Because unfortunately, with the new support, you are hindered by making only earth machines when you want to use some of your better combo enablers. So I kind of wanted to go over some of the cards in the deck and explain what the best cards in the deck are right now, what they do, and what you want to be doing. And I'll kind of go over what you can do when you are going first, but I want to definitely emphasize the combos you can do when you are going second and trying to kill the opponent. So let's get started on some of those turn 1 plays. Alright, so as I mentioned, you can go first with this deck. It basically, in my opinion, going first or second all revolves around Karakuri Merchant. This card has gotten so much better now because he just has better cards to search, along with all the other cards, because he searches every single card in the deck. He's incredible. And it's on normal summon, and he is also not once per turn. So if you do normal summon 2 of these guys in 1 turn, which is possible by the way, you can then get a lot of good searches, and you can really, at that point, you should be able to kill the opponent very easily, depending on what they have. So, just kind of go over it. He's the card you always want to see going turn 1. He searches everything you need, and he also searches you basically one of the best new cards in the deck, which is the Monk. And the reason why Monk is so good is because Monk basically gives you the capability to become a 1-card synchro engine. Karakuris didn't really have that, So now you can always normal summon your merchant to add yourself a monk. And monk can summon itself if you control a Karakuri and then you change the battle position. So at that point, before I forget, monk, when summoned this way, becomes a tuner. So now you have a level 5 tuner, level 2 non-tuner, and then you can go right into your level 7 beret play. If I can find them. There we go. And then you just keep going. Now, again, before, if it was Master Wolf 4, you could really do a lot with this. But unfortunately, because you can only control one extra deck monster, you're kind of locked into just that one zone. So when you also use the Monk's effect, Monk actually also, when you summon him, he locks you into Earth Machines. So unfortunately, you can only really make Karakuri Synchro Monsters and a couple other, Earth Machines. Some of the more notable Link monsters that you want to be summoning out is probably the Cleafort Genius. Because not only is he just a really good tuner for, pointing, for having really good arrows, he also has the ability to negate cards in the field, and he can also search you a level 5 or higher machine, which Monk just so happens to be. And that's only if you summon to the zones that he points to at the same time. And we do have a way of doing that. So if you do have the capability of going into a Cleafort Genius, and then you have other extenders, you can then you can take advantage of these pointers and summon out multiple Synchro Monsters. And that can easily help you with TK. Next card is Karakuri Gamma, which is the new level 1 tuner of the deck. He has no real effect besides the generic Karakuri effect of always having to have to attack and changing battle position when he is attacked. But also, if he's in the graveyard, he's a quick effect. Banish this card, and then target any Karakuri on your field and change his battle position, which can trigger a lot of crazy effects. So he's usually the tuner you want to summon with your Synchro Monsters, because if the Synchro Monsters summon out him, you can then just Synchro with that Synchro Monster into the next level, and then summon another one and keep on going until you get to the Beret Boo. So that's kind of neat. It kind of gives you access to every single Synchro Monster you want of the Karakuri Synchro Monsters. Now, if you are going first, I would say you always want to see a card like this. You always want to see a card like Instant Fusion too, because it does give you it just gives you more machines. And we do have access to an Earth Machine Fusion monster, which is Cybersaurus. And I think it's just kind of classic being able to play a card like this. But that's just because, again, if you're going to be abusing a card like Monk, which you most likely will be, you do have to play a card like Cybersaurus. I think you can also play there's a Unicycloid, but I don't know, I think he's just kind of cool, so I just use Cybersaurus. But that's kind of besides the point. Kamachi is also a good card for all of you who do know Karakuris. You know, she's one of the best cards in the entire deck because she's a level 3 tuner, and she does give you the ability to double summon Karakuris, which is lets you swarm the board. Basically, if you do see her going first, her and Merchant are one of they're best friends because they can basically go normal, search anything you want. In this case, you could always search for a monk. You can search for Karakuri anatomy. You can search for you can't search for that. I wish you could, but you can basically search whatever you want. And then this gives you access to one of the most simple first-round plays, which is Naturia Beast. And Naturia Beast is one of my favorite cards in the entire game, and he's one of the best cards you can make in Karakuris because, this is a real simple combo where you can just go right into Naturia Beast, and Naturia Beast can win you some games outright. I would say against a deck like Sky Striker, but right now they're not at their peak. But you get what I'm saying. The Karakuris do give you access to all of the Naturia Synchro Monsters, which are, again, some of my favorite cards in the game. And the biggest hindrance right now is that the deck needs to have the main zones available for Synchro Monsters. You can't rely on links, and that's just one of the main problems. So as great as it is to go into a turn 1 Landois or a turn 1 Naturia Beast, it's really difficult trying to get them out at the same time, especially with the hindrance of Monk, which is only going to let you summon machines. So now we're going to talk about what's better for the deck right now, and that's just basically to go second, which gives you technically more cards in the hand, and can also give you more opportunities to abuse one of the cards we have that lets you summon a lot of free monsters on the board at once. So let's go into that right now. Alright, so as I mentioned, these are all the cards that you basically want to be able to using when going first. Instant Fusion can also help give you more machines. You want to be able to get a good Link monster out, which I would say Cleafort Genius is probably the best option you have right now. You also have options like the Earth Charmer Link monster, which is very good, but it's not a machine. So once you're locked into machines, you can't summon it, which is unfortunate. Now, when going second, you actually get a lot of opportunities to abuse certain cards. So, just to name a few, you do have access to all these guys going second, which can help, make you develop a board. If you can summon out Cleaver Genius first, then you're pretty much in the clear, because then you can really abuse one of the best cards ever. Well, this card is just amazing because it's draw power for the deck. But Urgent Schedule is probably one of the best cards you can play in Karakuris right now. And I think this will also hold true at Master Rule 5, because this is a great going second card. And for those of you who don't know, it lets you summon out 2 machines, one level 4 or lower and one level 5 or higher. I think they have to be Earth machines, and then for the rest of the turn, you can only attack with machines, which is not really a problem for us, because we're going to be doing most of our attacking with the machines. So you can still summon Nicheria Beast and Nicheria Barkion and whatever under this, but just they can't attack, which is not that big of a deal. Now, this is not a going first card, because in order to activate this, you have to have less monsters than your opponent. So if you're going first, this card's dead. Now, it is a quick play, so you could actually set it for a turn and then maybe use it on your opponent's turn. But the best way to utilize this is to basically most likely summon out a level 5 Earth Machine, which is going to be something like Monk. I guess you technically could play some other Earth Machines like the Machina Fortress, which we are getting new Machinas, by the way, so that actually might be a thing. And maybe summon out like a tuner along with Monk, like I couldn't think of her name, like Hamachi. Whew, sorry about that. And the best part is, what you want to do is try to get this card out first, and then abusing Urgent Schedule. Because by doing that, you can get the second effect of Cleaver Genius, which is, if 2 monsters are summoned to this guy's zone at the exact same time, you can then use his effect to add a level 5 or higher machine, I think it is. Yep, level 5 or higher machine. That's cool. So that just gives you access, again, to any Earth machine, which could be something like Machina Fortress, a Monk. Monk's a great card. So it just gives you free resources. And now, if you do have your Cleaver Genius and you have these guys, you can also take advantage of Genius's effect to negate one of these cards, then negate an opponent's card, which is cool. But now you can go into your synchro plays and you have 2 zones to abuse. So then if you have other extenders, you can actually just keep synchro summoning and really abuse the effects of the synchro monsters. Another great card for going second will be something like Cyber Dragon, which you can also abuse with Urgent Schedule. If they have a lot of monsters, for example, if they have 2 or more, you can always, if you're on second, you can special Cyber Dragon, and then you can play Urgent Schedule. Or if you really want to, you could always, if you're really that lucky or good at this game, you could always special Cyber Dragon, normal summon a merchant, get its effect, then go into Cleaver Genius, and then go into Urgent Schedule. But that all depends on what you have in your hand and what your opponent has. But Cyber Dragon is a great card for this deck when going second. It also lets you break boards, because Cyber Dragon, as we all know, gives you access to Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon and Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon, which is awesome. But other extenders you can play will be cards like Mind Control, which is, again, great for going second. Karakuris now have access to a brand new Monster Reborn card called the Karakuri Gamma Oil, which does let your monster that's equipped to this gain attack whenever a Karakuri monster changes battle position. But more importantly, this is basically a premature burial that you can only activate 1 per turn, but you can summon any Karakuri from the graveyard. This card is also searchable by Merchant, which is great. And it's also good for resummoning the synchro monsters that you use to synchro summon other synchro monsters with. Gosh, tongue twister. So then that can also help you OTK very easily, which is great. Another good extender I've been trying out is something like Iron Call. Now, this is not searchable like Gamma Oil, but it is just another version of Monster Reborn for machines that you can use. Also, I would highly advise playing cards like Monster Reborn, or even cards like the World Legacy Succession, which is, again, just a Monster Reborn. And if you have a card like Cleaver Genius out, you can just summon it to a zone you points to. And finally, I would also like to say that because this card's back in the game, this is a great way for you to recycle all of your machine monsters, or especially your synchro monsters, anything from the extra deck. And then draw power is always great. The deck already has draw power, but more draw power is good, and this card can be good when going first or going second, especially if you can get into your extra deck plays. Other cards you can play, I would definitely advise to test this first, because I'm actually still a little iffy on it. Because these are all cards that are searchable by Merchant, and if you happen to draw these with all your draw power, Karakuris have access to a Dark Bribe-like card, which basically lets you negate any spell or trap while you control a defense mode Karakuri monster. We also have access to an Effect Veiler-like card, which says that if you can just target one of your Karakuri monsters and one of your opponent's monsters, change your battle position and negate that monster's effect. This also has an effect in the graveyard, which lets you change the battle position of any one of your Karakuris. So a lot of battle position changing, which means you can just completely gain a lot of counters for your anatomy. You can boost the attack of your monster that's equipped with Gamma Oil, and you can also abuse the effects of your synchro monsters like Beredo and Berebu. So now that we kind of understand that basically the deck is meant for going second, I'm going to show you guys some of the plays you can do and some of the combos. Alright guys, so as I mentioned, it's very possible that you are going to be, going up against someone and you're going to want to go second with this deck, because until Master Rule 5 comes out, and I will be making another video when Master Rule 5, gets closer and closer. I'll show you guys some of the crazy boards you can do with this deck going first, but as right now, we are Master Rule 4 still, and we are hindered by Link monsters. I'm going to show you guys what we are capable of doing. And it's still pretty impressive, and it's still pretty fun, and I think it can still catch a lot of people off guard. So the importance of this card is that this card gives you access to everything in the entire deck. So with just this one card, you can then use this to basically search any other monster. More importantly, you can search a Monster Reborn, which can be really great in the late game. You can search your draw power card. And you can also search cards that, let's say you have everything that you need when you're going first, you can then search out your cards like the Cash In and the Cash Shed. So you have Monster and Spell Trap Negation, which is all good. But, as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about things that you can kind of do to really just abuse, kind of just like make the biggest board presence. And this is often going to happen when you're going second. So, what you can do is summon a Merchant to add Monk. Monk will then special summon himself, changing this. Which again, if you can abuse cards like Anatomy, please do it. It'll just give you free cards. And free cards is always good. This lets you then go into your Beret, which technically will be summoned up here. And then Beret can summon a Karakuri from the deck, which in most cases you're going to be summoning out cards like the Toad or Gamma. Gamma will then be sync away for Beredo. Now, if you want to, Beredo can then let you summon again any Karakuri monster, which, technically, if you wanted to use his effect to get a draw, you could always summon a card like Strategist. So, summon him, switch, draw a card. Cool. Or, if you want to keep climbing up the ladder, this is where you can go into another Toad, and then synchro summon these guys into a Berebu. And then Berebu, again, can give you access to any Karakuri you want, and if you wanted to, you could always summon out Strategist to immediately change the battle position, use the effect to kill a monster. But if you're going first, it's probably better just to go into something like, well, I guess just summon any Karakuri in defense mode, or maybe summon a Karakuri that you want to change at some point, using the effect like Gamma in the graveyard. I guess one of the most safest bets you can kind of do when going first is to go into a Karakuri Soldier, because he is a giant rat for the deck, and he will float when he is killed by battle, and that's kind of good because then you can then, on the opponent's turn, get access to cards like Strategist, which will change on the opponent's turn when he's summoned from his effect. Then you can use his effect to match more cards, get counters for Anatomy, so on and so forth. And all that is possible with just this one Karakuri Merchant. So, hands down, because of all the new cards we have, he was and still is the best card in the deck. You always want to see him. So now let's see what happens, what we can do if we draw other cards. Like we're going to go into some 2-card combos now. So for going second cards, let's just say you open up with just these two. I would say that this is probably two of the best cards you could ever wish to open up with when going second. Again, there are a lot of other great cards for going second, like Cyber Dragon. You could even play cards like Nibiru, which can wipe an opponent's board, and then you can just abdicate them really easily. You can also play Dark Ruler No More, which I think is a great side deck option, and I guess potentially main deck if you're always wanting to go second. But that's up to you. So I would say, like, let's say you do open up with this. This gives you access to so much. So basically, if you are going second and your opponent has at least one monster on the board, you can then abuse Urgent Schedule. So most likely, I would say you go into you have to go into a level 5 or higher. So Monk's probably your best bet. And then I would say just go into a level 3 tuner. It doesn't really matter which one, so we'll just say you go into a Komachi. The idea is you just want to be able to go into your Cleaver Genius as soon as possible. So these are now all going to be in the graveyard. And you now have your Cleaver Genius. Now, as cool as this is, you actually won't be able to really abuse his secondary effects because we kind of used our urgent schedule. So technically, we could actually go into our Cleaver Genius by using Merchant to add Monk, and then those two, Monk and Merchant, can then go into Cleaver Genius, and then you can play Urgent Schedule. But that only works if your opponent has 2 or more monsters. Because if they have 2, you have 1, then this card's playable. So technically, it all depends on what the opponent has. So in this situation, we're assuming that they only had 1 monster, so we really can only abuse this as the very first card that we played. But anyway, besides that, now that you have this open, you have a lot of access to your extra monster zones. So you can then normal summon Merchant, use the effect to get Monk. Special summon Monk, switch this, Synchro Summon. Go into your Burrito. Go into your Beret. And then at this point, if you want to keep Synchro climbing, you can just get out. Most likely go off for your Gamma. Synchro into a level 8. Use his effect, again, to go into Gamma, so that way you can go into level 9. Or if you want to just draw a card and potentially sit on... Whoops, where'd he go? You could always summon out the Strategist, switch, draw a card. You now have a card that you can actually negate with Cleafort Genius. You can always just, after you switch and draw a card, use his effect, target this, target a monster in the field, it's now negated. And because you are technically locked into Earth Machines because of Monk, you can't really abuse these guys and go into like a Link 4. So that's kind of the downside. But again, this is only when we're assuming like the worst. So now let's assume that we can actually really abuse the effect of Urgent Schedule if our opponent, when going, let's say they go first and they open up with multiple monsters, then we can really let this card shine. Alright, so if we are assuming their opponent has more than 2 monsters, then we can really take advantage of Urgent Schedule. So what you would probably want to do is normal summon the Merchant, use his effect to get yourself a Monk, summon Monk, oops, hit the camera. Monk will turn him to defense, or whichever you do. Link summon these away into your Cleaver Genius, and now you can abuse this card. Urgent Schedule will now give you 2 monsters, and again, I would say you always have to summon out a Monk. And then I guess another good thing would just be get any level 3 tuner, I guess. These are both just fine. And now Genius will actually activate and we'll be able to search you another copy of Monk, which you technically can't abuse now because you've already used it, but hey, this is actually still really good and you just got a free card. And now you can kind of just continue on where you were. The downside is that we technically still can't really abuse, we still can't really keep extending. So although you can actually use these to really go into your Synchro monsters and maybe go all the way into your level 9. But if you Synchro summon into your level 9 Barebo, you should have a Gamma in the graveyard, which you can then banish to immediately, to interrupt the opponent on the opponent's turn, or you can use it to interrupt them on your turn and go for attack. But ideally, Karakuris really shine if you actually open up with potentially a 3-card combo or a 3-card extender. So I'm going to show you guys what you can truly do if you have a 3-card hand. Alright, so now, let us assume, hit the camera again. So now let's assume we actually opened up the Holy Grail. We have multiple cards in our hand, we're going second, and we open it with cards a hand like this. So we have our Monk, we have our Merchant, and we have our Urgent Schedule. The cool thing is, now we can really see what the deck's capable of doing. And yes, I'm going to say this right now, this is by no means tier 0 or broken, because again, we're hindered by links, the deck locks itself out of the extra deck. It's, there are limitations, but that does not mean that the deck can't surprise people. So, let's just assume that we can truly abuse these cards. I would say that one of the best things you can do is to then go into something like Karakuri Merchant, use the effect to get an extender. And if you already don't have a card like Karakuri Anatomy or Karakuri Gamma Oil, try to go for the other one. But Gamma Oil is a great extender. So, we'll get this. If you have a Karakuri Anatomy, you can really get a lot of counters because of Monk. And so, we will split some on Monk, switch. We'll go into a Link monster. Go into Genius. Then use Urgent Schedule, summon out 2 monsters. So we can summon out Monk, Strategist, and as I mentioned, this will give you the opportunity to add another Monk, which is kind of just good to have. Now, you can Synchro Summon into a level 8. So we can go into Burrito. This is our hand. I'm sorry. Burrito will now let you go into what I think is a good card is something like Gamma. And now, if technically you really can't like abuse the draw effect, but we'll get into that later. It all depends on what you have. Because technically, if you really wanted to, you could actually summon out. Let's see, where did I hide him? You could actually summon out. Oh, please stand by, folks. I actually can't seem to find him. Where the heck did I put that guy? Oh, here he is. Jeez. Okay, so you can summon out Strategist, switch them, and then immediately draw one card. So that's cool. You have these two cards. You have two other cards in your hand, and now you're going to draw one card. And now, you do have the Gamma Oil. So you basically have a Monster Reborn. And this also will let you, potentially, you can play the Gamma Oil and summon a card from your graveyard. I would say you can summon out the Monk that you had. So, summon out Monk. This will then give you access to another level 8 Synchro. Oops, sorry, I have all these cards laying around everywhere. So then you can summon another Burrito, use his effect to then potentially go into another Gamma. And this is in your hand. So this guy has not used his effect to draw yet. If you wanted to, you could synchro summon with these guys to go into a Berebu. And then when Berebu is summoned, he can give you, basically whatever you want. You can summon out another Strategist, which could actually summon him in defense mode, target himself to switch, and now you'll get to draw another card, and then you'll be able to banish a card in the field. And immediately, don't forget, you also have Cleaver Genius, which you then target with one. Like, after you use all these effects, use this effect, target this, now a card in the field is negated. So, and this is actually a lot of damage all right here. So not only have you removed cards in the field, you still have about 4 cards in your hand. Imagine if you draw into a card like Limit of Removal, it's basically game over. You can also draw into Spell and Trap Removal, like Twin Twister, or Monster Removal like Dark Ruler No More, Evenly Matched. I guess in this deck, Evenly Matched is not the best idea because you want to be able to attack. Yes, Dark Ruler No More says you can't deal damage, but at least you can just kill everything. I guess, technically, that being said, Evenly Matched probably wouldn't be the biggest bad idea just to get rid of everything, and then you can just summon a bunch of stuff, but, I guess it's all player preference, and also depends on what the opponent has. But then again, I guess if you do play Evenly Matched, your opponent will only have one card, and that card can be banished with Berebu. So you know what? I take that back. Evenly Matched actually isn't that bad of an idea. So sure, you can attack, but you can still make a board, and you can still have a negator, you can draw cards, and you can banish the one card that's still in the field. So that's actually not a bad idea. So this is kind of just abusing exactly what you can do with 3 cards. You can do a lot more with more cards. And again, there's a lot of other extenders in the deck. You have all the other Monster Reborns. If you happen to already have the Gamma Oil in your hand, you could always search for an Anatomy with your Merchant initially at the very beginning of your turn, and you'll draw even more cards. Then at that point, you have, 6 cards in your hand potentially? And if you wanted to, let's say you don't kill your opponent, you can potentially even draw or search into these guys, which is just more interruption. And the best part is all these cards that change on the opponents, that change battle positions, whether it's Toad banishing himself or the Cash-In banishing itself to change your battle positions, that's going to abuse all of your effects. To draw cards, banish cards, it's actually really crazy. Also, if you still have these in the field, you get more counters, which is more drawing. So yeah, I kind of just wanted to show you guys that this is kind of like what the deck will be able to do in Master Rule 4. Now, again, if you open up all extenders make everything. If you have a Cyber Dragon, you can go Cyber Dragon, get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and then go into like your Chimera Tech guy, normal summon a Karakuri, use the Chimera Tech and the Karakuri to go into this, an Urgent Schedule, there's all different ways. It all depends on what your opponent has. I want to show you guys how explosive the deck can be, and how it can OTK very easily, and there's so much to look forward to with Master Rule 5. And as we get closer, I am going to be making a video showing you guys what you can do with Master Rule 5. But for now, I think this is definitely a deck to keep an eye out for. It's definitely a deck to test with, because right now, Master Rule 4 hinders it, but Master Rule 5 will definitely have a lot more to offer. So I hope you guys learn a lot today. I'll be definitely making more videos about Karakuris. Again, these are some of my favorite cards in the entire game. I'm so glad that they got new support. And I can only hope that they get more in the future. But, we'll see how that goes. So, I think it's it for now, guys. Take it easy.